Yes, hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another segment of my wonderful series about spirituality. I call it 11 Minutes of Spirituality, but actually it's developing itself to become more sometimes and less sometimes. So maybe I'll give it a new name. And remember, wherever you're watching this, if you're watching this in Twitter, if you're watching this in Snapchat, in YouTube, wherever you're watching it, remember to give it a thumbs up. And all the Facebook groups where I post it, thank you so much for giving it your likes. And subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's two things that I would like to speak about today. And the one thing is quality versus quantity, which is a very important thing. And the second thing is the topic of reincarnation. But before I do that, I would like to show you a couple of things. I'm here in my art and library studio in Herten in Germany, where I live. And I paint here. I would like to show you some stuff. This painting I did, I think about 5 years ago, actually. And, well, my wife says these sort of Van Gogh-like sunflowers, they're a little crammed up in the very top. But anyway, it's sort of inspired by Van Gogh, I must say. I'm no great painter. I would say I dabble a little bit. This is another one, sort of a Bob Ross thing. Stormy Sea is actually inspired by another Bob Ross thing. Then I'd like to show you this. This is a mountain that I painted. And just to be a little clear that I also do abstract, sort of a cubistic thing that I did. Well, and of course, you probably realize that I also painted this one. No, just kidding. That was Da Vinci, my great hero, Da Vinci. I do write as well. You see, there's books here. There's Shakespeare, the Oxford Anthology of Great English Poetry, King Arthur, and so on. These are a few books that are available on the web. This one, Thoughts from the Other Side, spiritual articles, Spirituality for a New Age, available on Amazon. Aphrodite's Curse, 2015, Matthias Publishing published this one. 21 Tales of Love and Terror. This one, Horror Stories, They Smell Your Fear. This is a picture, initially, of me as a vampire in Dance of the Vampires, 1997. A long time ago now. This is the first segment of a fantasy trilogy. I spent 10 years, actually, writing this. Worldwide, available on through ePubli. And it's 1,000 pages. If you don't want to give out the money, you can actually read it for free at Bookrix. This is another book that I wrote about my ancestry. My father, Herbert Moulton, who was an MCA star for MCA Records in the 50s. My mother, who was an opera star. This was my grandma, Anna Krunsell, Herbert Air Moulton, Gun Krunsell, Anna Krunsell, who was a silent movie pianist. And that's me. So, that was a few books, a little information and commercials for my own cause. Now, quality versus quantity. We live in a very fast time. We live in a time where it seems that speed is the most important thing. And you'll find, as I said in my last video, that I recorded in the Erich Clausen school where I work as a singer, as a singing teacher. There's 1,000 videos to show you how you can manifest things fast. But take a young artist who becomes famous at 19, and he shoots to the top, and he gets loads of money and loads of fame. Where's he going to go from there? You know, where is he actually going to go from there? If he's on the top of his league at 19, he has nowhere to go. And you have a lot of artists who are young artists, child artists, who actually become so famous so quickly. When they get older, this was the Mozart Syndrome. Mozart was a huge star at 5 years of age, and he kept on being creative until the day he died. But as a grown-up, you know, a lot of people had problems with him because he was extremely outspoken, and he knew almost everything. So it was difficult. But of course, you know, that's another thing on its own. Sometimes it's always good to shoot for excellence. But as far as money is concerned, and as far as fast is concerned, it's worth actually shooting for a slow climb to the top, and the quality should be in the foreground, you know, because what does it help if you have 1,000 fans who just like your work on a shallow level, if they don't really listen to your work, or if it's just a, you know, thumbs up? It's better to have 20 people who really like your stuff than 1 million people who just, you know, it's sort of like happy entertainment. It's of course great to have 1 million fans who you inspire thoroughly. One of the people that I apparently inspire is a wonderful man, whom I've also talked about in my articles, and I've published articles about him, Collinson Freeman. If you're watching this, Collinson, thank you very much. You're a very, very, very gifted singer, and I'm honored that you say you told me you wish you were me, because I do so many things, and that is a huge, huge honor. Thank you so much. And that to me is absolutely flattering, because I admire Collinson very much. He's a great man, and he's a great singer. So I can just return the compliment. You are a fabulous guy. Now, another person that really inspires me is Neale Donald Walsch. And here we come to the subject of reincarnation. All these books that I've read by him are actually German translations. That's another one, Beyond Death, and of course the Conversations with God. To me, to sort of just segue into reincarnation, to me, God is logical. It's pure logic. And you get those wonderful questions, or you ask yourself those questions that I've been asking myself, or that other people ask me or ask themselves. What's beyond the end of the universe? What was before the beginning? Like Michio Kaku, this wonderful theoretical physicist from the University of New York, and he speaks about the God particle, which is the Higgs boson, which apparently triggered the Big Bang. But another theoretical physicist have asked himself, actually, I have a problem with nothingness, because there's physicists that say before the Big Bang there was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. And he said, I have a problem with nothingness. You know, I don't have a problem with eternity, but I have a problem with nothingness. And there's also, to take this a little further, there's also people who who talk about this, the buzzing of the electrons. I mean, we are 99.9% empty space. Everything in the universe, everything is 99.9 empty space. Because the atoms, they have a shell, and inside there's these buzzing protons, neutrons, and electrons. And they're buzzing all the time. So the whole universe is buzzing. If you see a stone, it's buzzing. It's just on the outside. It looks immobile. So remember that we're buzzing all the time. And if you realize that, if you walk down the street with that kind of image, if you realize that, then life becomes much more different. Now, eternity, love, God, these are concepts that are very linked together. And here we're journeying into a very interesting area. A friend of mine, an older friend of mine, he lost his faith in God through bad situations, bad crisis in his life. And he said he couldn't believe in God anymore because so many bad things had happened to him. Now he's a wonderful grandfather. He's a fantastic grandfather, loves his grandchildren. And I said, that's God. The love that you give your grandchildren, the love you receive from your grandchildren, the love you feel is God in action. But he said, can't be. It isn't, you know. And here we have the discrepancy. This, you have all misunderstood me. Those are God's words spoken through Neale Donald Walsch. And that's what I'm saying. To me, God is completely logical. And we're not talking about the God of religions, because religions are just interpretations of God. When the caveman, before all the holy books were written, before all the churches were built, before all the priests gathered and built these religions, which are only interpretations of God, a caveman walked out of his cave, sat by his fire, and looked at the stars and realized there has to be something more than me. And he felt it in his buzzing electrons. He felt it. And maybe he thought about a friend. And the friend that I hadn't seen for years came by. And that's the buzzing energy that hits. And there's this wonderful Hertz frequency scale of the emotions. And your emotions, they have a frequency. And that's the buzzing of the electrons. And I can, before I segue into this whole thing with the reincarnation, because that's sort of like a prelude to what I'm going to say about reincarnation. Life is full of these signs. And if you're open to these signs, you know, if it's self-fulfilling prophecies or anything, you might call it anything, because it's the buzz that kind of comes and returns and goes away from you. I was standing on stage in a rehearsal many years ago, and after the rehearsal, I was going to go to a toy shop, a sort of remote toy shop in a close by city, and it wasn't really a big toy shop. It was like one of the friends of one of my daughter's friend had wished a toy for her birthday that existed in this toy shop. So I had the address, and I'd spoken to no one about it. And behind me, while I was waiting for my scene, a colleague mentioned not only the toy shop, but the address. I had told no one. Now, that happens to me all the time in that sort of duology. I talk about a song that I haven't heard on the radio for a decade, 8, 9, 10 years. And I turn on the radio, just by coincidence, walking by. And just at that second, as I turn on the radio, what comes on the radio? The song I was talking with my colleague about, which I haven't talked about for many, many years. Or after a bad audition, I tell myself, okay, that was a bad audition, screw it, but your time will come. And what do I see on the next billboard that I drive by? Your time will come. And that's the kind of stuff that goes on. And we have to start looking at God in a different light than just in the form of religions. Because God is in the divine buzz, the divine energy that flows through all of us. And having said that, I repeat again what I'm saying, that God makes sense. Because it's everything that flows, the conscious energy. There has to be an architect. We don't go to the Cologne Cathedral and say, hey, that's a nice building. Who built it? No, nobody built it. It's just there. Well, somebody built it. It's like the universe. If we even say that we came from aliens, there's people who say that. Well, Jesus was an astronaut. But you're always going to end up with the question, who created the aliens? Who was the original creator? And there's too much wonder and too much incredible things in this universe to just say it just happened. You don't throw a bunch of sticks into the air and expect them to form the Mona Lisa on the ground. That sort of everything leads to reincarnation. Souls don't appear out of nowhere, and Neale Donald Walsch talks about the soul's agenda. The soul, or the consciousness that you are, the aura that's bigger than your body, has an agenda, has a mission in this life. And I knew that I had a mission. I knew that I had problems. And some of the stuff that went on in my life, also as a child, I told myself, well, this is going to be sort of tough solving this problem. But as I got older, I realized, well, my previous lives actually were revealed to me through circumstances. And it was actually beyond all thinking and all the other stuff that went on, trying to think about stuff or fixing stuff. It was actually finding out what my previous incarnations were that actually helped me work on solving my issues. I'm an Elvis impersonator. I do that, and the first time I did it was on stage in the theater where I work, and because I did an Elvis impersonation there, people asked me, well, do you do shows with his stuff? Because I was just as Elvis on stage. And I said, well, I could. I know his songs. I grew up with his movies. So I started doing that. And for a few years later, a colleague of mine said, well, here's Elvis' brother, meaning me. And I actually said, well, Elvis did have a brother. And so that started in my mind, Elvis' brother. And I won't get into what actually happened to me, but there was a situation that was sort of frightening where I was, something happened to me, and I researched, and this actually also happened to Elvis. So we had a similar situation that happened in our lives, and they were very, very close. It was like 1-to-1. Now, he didn't survive it. I did. So I won't say anything else, but and it happened at night. And that sort of made me think, why did that happen? And I was researching for another Elvis show, and I borrowed a DVD from the library, and And I saw this DVD, and suddenly there was this feeling that Elvis was much more than just an idol. I felt like this guy was family. And at that moment, the night after that, I woke up at the same time again, where I had this sign, the previous one that I was talking about. I had this sign, and I woke up at 3:30 at night, and I felt a presence. I felt an angelic presence. And I searched Google. I turned on my smartphone, and I searched the web, and I saw that Jesse Garon Presley, his stillborn brother, had died at 3:30 in the morning. And I realized, and it was a thing through circumstances, but it was also a thing that happened to me through a feeling, that I realized, and everything clicked. All the mysteries and all the strange things that I was wondering, why is that, clicked. And realized I was the reincarnation of Elvis' stillborn brother. And that made total sense. So I had one of my reincarnations. And to be really honest, I mean, if you have or if you want to know your incarnation, what would you want to be? Probably would go, hey, I was Einstein, I was Da Vinci, I was something else. You know, why would you choose an incarnation of, you know, somebody being stillborn? But it makes total sense. And so I followed my psychological journey. And I said, if I had chosen to come here to be stillborn, maybe working as an angel for Elvis during his lifetime, as an angel, why did my soul not feel strong enough to take the step and actually live a life here? Well, it must have been because I experienced something in the life before that I couldn't handle. And I clicked back in the years, and I met in my mind a guy that actually I had been interested in for years, a Swedish count, and his name is Axel von Fersen, and he was, I have a book about him somewhere here, and Axel von Fersen, he was a very, a strong and very, very intellectual count, and his love, the love of his life really, was guillotined in 1793, Marie Antoinette, and he really never got over it. And he was lynched to death on the Stockholm courtyard in 1810. And a lot of the stuff, a lot of the issues that I have of fearing loss, unable to let go, being very much an extrovert person on stage and in my work, but actually sort of being cautious in crowds as a private individual. All of that, you know, or just fearing loss or fearing of letting go. All of those stuff fit so perfectly well with me having been this count. And it internally, spiritually, it's actually the only thing that makes sense. And since I realized that I was Axel von Fersen in my earlier life, things click in my brain. And I say, you know, a lot of the stuff, I'm here to actually try to work out the things that happened back then. Now, what happened in the 19th century between Axel von Fersen and me being the stillborn brother of Elvis, I don't know, but it must have been very dramatic, because I tried to come back, but it didn't really work out very well. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of spiritual answers in your soul that is beyond anything what this world can tell you. Just try to make your own assessments, and remember that love and life are very, very, very important, really. And make your own assessments and make your own judgments, and remember to choose life and choose love, and think outside the 9 dots. This is something that also Arnold Schwarzenegger talked about in his song with Andreas Caballé. They recorded a rap song together. Think outside the 9 dots. Don't think in the normal paths, what everybody, tells you to think, choose your own answers and try to make your own assessments, This turned out to be a very long video. It's 26 minutes now. And if you've been sitting through this entire video, bravo, kudos to you. And I will keep on making these videos. Some people have really given me big compliments about my articles about quantum mechanics. If there's anything that you want me to talk about, shoot it out in the comments and just tell me what you would like to hear about. And I do 4-minute videos, I do 2-minute videos, I do half-hour videos. It's all, it's all possible. So anyway, that was my little video, my long video for today, with ideas about the soul and where we come from and why we're here. And well, I have a show tonight. I'm gonna play the last show of the season in the theater. Schwanda der Dudelsackpfeifer, but a magical bagpiper. Okay, take good care, and see you again in the web.